Get Her Cycling, Riding Together, a podcast about how riding a bike can transform more than just your fitness. It can build confidence, connection, and a stronger sense of self. I'm Charlene. This series is a space for women to explore how cycling can support mental health, social connection, and a community leadership. Even if you've never ridden before or haven't been on a bike in decades. Each episode will share stories, skills, and simple ideas to help you ride more often, ride safely, and ride with others. No pressure, no judgment, just encouragement to start where you are. And when you're ready to ride in real life, we'd love you to join us at Advantageous, where we run inclusive cycling programs, group rides, and workshops for women just like you. So grab your headphones and let's ride together. Hi, and welcome to Get Her Cycling, Riding Together. I'm Charlene, and today I'm so excited to share a story that captures everything we love about this community, the courage to begin, the joy of riding with others, and the deep purpose that comes from leading. Today's guest is someone who's been part of Her Cycling Connections from the very beginning. From her very first group ride in Cumberland to leading weekly rides, supporting mental health programs, and crossing finish lines at major charity events. Her story is one of growth, generosity, and grit. Thank you, Amy, for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you here.
You're welcome. It's good to be here.
So let's start at the beginning. How did you first get involved in Her Cycling Connections?
Oh, well, it's a long time ago now, but I think it was, I saw something online about the rides at Cumberland, and decided to join the group just so that I could get more confidence and find out where were good places to ride in the area.
And what do you remember about that first session?
Just being part of a really supportive group, also a group who knew I was planning to turn up, so there was a bit of that accountability and regularity, and yeah, just having other women to ride with and knowing where were safe places to ride.
Okay, so how did you first get involved in the Her Cycling Connections?
Well, I think I saw an online Facebook post and I decided to join this group of ladies so I could find out where was a good place to ride and that I would have, a place and a time to meet other people and ride together and build confidence that way.
So had you been riding with other groups during this time?
No, not really. I'd been doing a bit of riding solo, but it was sporadic. It was usually unplanned. My family wouldn't know what time I was coming back, whether it would be before or after sunset. So it was good to have a plan and have people that I was riding with.
So what really got you keen to keep coming back then?
Just the friendly atmosphere, the support, just the opportunity to build confidence, to develop some riding skills and also to develop relationships in the group and knowing safe places to ride.
So you said you'd done a lot of solo riding. So what areas had you covered? What kilometres, what distance riding had you done before this?
I would basically find a local signposted shared path, and this is before the days where you could use maps on your phone and that. So I was literally just following the blue and white signage and hoping I wouldn't miss one. And I would not really know how far I was riding at the time, and sometimes I would be riding 2 or 3 hours longer than I'd intended to.
What areas did you cover back then?
The Cooks River Cycleway, which was good for its time. There are better ones now. And Western Sydney Parklands as well. I remember one very notable time where I kept getting lost running into one lock gate after another. That was what made me want to plan my rides better and to know where I was going.
So that probably brings me back to what you remember about that first session with the ladies at the Cumberland. Now, we say Cumberland, it was actually Holroyd Gardens that the group was meeting.
Yep.
Very nice place to learn and explore the paths. What do you remember about those first sessions that you attended?
Just, as you said, that park was a good place to learn when you're initially riding around the park and just building confidence there, and then heading out onto the nearby rail trail where we could go a little bit further, explore more with the uphill and downhill and learning more about gears. And
So what then helped build that confidence in those earlier days? I mean, you mentioned confidence with gears, but what else helped with building that confidence?
just having the support of you and the other mentors that were in the group, and just that it was there were other people in the group, and it was a learning experience for them too, so we could all learn together.
Can you remember the difference in skill level in those earlier days? Like, did everyone know how to ride?
No, no. No, there were people who were really just beginning to build their confidence in even just rolling a few meters without panicking and wanting to put a foot down.
Yeah.
And there was quite the range. So it was a very good thing that we had a park to practice in until we were all feeling a bit more comfortable, and then we could support each other when we ventured further afield.
So many women say the hardest part isn't pedaling, it's just turning up. You did that and then kept coming back. At some point, you made the leap from participant to ride leader. So tell us, how did that shift happen for you?
It was sort of quite organic, and the opportunity for the ride leading course came up, and there are a few people who would say things like, oh, you're a confident rider, you tend to know where we're going as a group. By then I enjoyed being an active part of the group, you might say, helping look after others in the group by passing on calls and that sort of thing, by making sure hazards were pointed out or called. And it just seemed a natural transition from just sort of passing on calls and making sure I was looking after the people behind me to, well, I might as well be at the front of the group doing that.
And I guess you'd have to have some good knowledge of the local area as well.
Yeah, I had to spend time developing an understanding of where we went on our rides and what the facilities were, because as we've discussed before, ride leading is also about knowing the local area. Like if someone suddenly needed to stop and find a train station, you know where that is. If someone needs a toilet, you know where that is. Bubblers in parks and things like that. So just picking up on all that local knowledge made leading make a bit more sense.
You mentioned about a training course. Tell us a little bit more about what's involved in that training course.
Oh, yeah. So that's an interesting one. So there are a few elements to it. Part of it is being able to map out a ride, so to simply know where you're going, how long it's going to take. Being able to give what we call the briefing at the start of the ride, so telling people about, what the ride is going to be like, where we're going, what the pace will be like, and the things that we want people to pass on, like that there's a rider approaching from behind or coming up in front, or if there's hazards on the path and so on. It also involves knowing what to do if something were to go wrong, like if there's a mechanical issue with someone's bike or someone's injured, having the confidence to know what to do about that. And so, yes, the ride leader training did culminate in a training day where we sort of role played all that, which I found a bit challenging, because the idea of pretending that someone is badly hurt is like, well, how far do I lean into this? But yeah, it was quite. I actually distinctly remember from my ride leader training day, the one time I felt thoroughly confident was because we're in an area open to the public, and at one stage a dog that was off the lead really did run towards the group, and that was the thing I felt most confident dealing with because it was real.
And you mentioned bike maintenance or bike mechanical issues. So let's just have a moment to talk about girls can do this?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The number of times we've cracked the joke, someone will say, I need a man for this. And you say, no, you don't need a man. You just need a tool.
And what sort of mechanical issues have you come across and had to help with?
Um, I remember it can be exceptionally minor, like someone's seat keeps sliding down and you just need to pull out an Allen key and tighten the seat up. Uh, a chain dropping off. I actually had that happen to me on my own bike the other day, and it's even though I don't like dirty hands, I've developed the art of only getting grease on about 2 or 3 fingers and grabbing the chain and popping it back on. Um,
And what
oh,
about the obvious? What do you do when you get a flat tire?
yes, when you get a flat tire. Well, I do have one story. A few years ago when I was, I don't know, about an hour's ride away from Liverpool train station, and it was dusk, and I was on the side of a busy road, and I got a puncture in tyres that were supposed to not be able to get a puncture. Um, so, yeah, and thanks to the skills that I developed as part of our maintenance courses, I was able to sit there on the side of the road. Now, it wasn't quick. I know we do like 1 minute or 3 minute tyre changing challenges. It was a lot more than a minute. I think it might have been more like half an hour. But in fading light, by the light of my phone, I was able to, get the wheel off and change the tyre. It was a very different experience to, I remember one time back as a teenager when I was determined to sort it out myself without having had any experience. And I ended up with nuts and bolts littered all over the garage floor with the determination to not go inside and consult my dad or my brother. Because I basically, in order to get them out of the way, I dismantled the brakes. So you should have seen the look on my face some years later when I was at a maintenance course and someone simply reached over and disengaged the brakes. They didn't have to be taken apart. They just had to be loosened.
So I guess this is what's bringing me to another question around what gave you the confidence to step into the guiding role?
I suppose it was knowing things like how to handle a mechanical issue with a bike. Also knowing, because you do have the wisdom of the group, so knowing that you have other people in the group who can help deal with situations as well. So we have people who are prepared for anything. We have first aid kits. Knowing that the group has that capacity and that I have that capacity developed over years.
And how did it feel that first time you were at the front of the group?
It's a bit nerve-wracking. It was good that I was sort of eased into it. I remember a mentor riding what we call one out and one back behind me. So she was an experienced ride leader and was just over my shoulder if I needed help. But it was a skill learning to not just follow the person in front of me, but actually know where we were going as a group and to follow that. And also doing what we call shoulder checks, constantly checking over my shoulder to make sure that we haven't lost any people off the back of the group. And just practically speaking, that meant that by the end of the day, I had a very sore right shoulder because I was looking over it all the time.
I think this is a good reminder of it's not just get on your bike and go for a ride, that there is a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into these roles. And we value what our ride leaders put into these rides as well. Have you noticed any changes in the group over time?
I suppose just that we get to know each other better, that some people have really developed in their confidence from, very early on hardly being able to ride at all to riding further with us. And of course, we ride the ups and downs of life with each other, like, birthdays and anniversaries and pets being ill and all those sorts of things. We just share those moments with each other.
And what's the favourite part of leading the ladies' rides in particular? So I'm thinking of the regular weekly rides with a small group of ladies. Is there coffee involved?
Oh, there is totally coffee involved. There must be coffee involved. And there's coffee and there's a lot of discussion about, we're quite honest with each other about, okay, I've had a tough week. I really just need to pedal it out, or yeah, I'm physically aching from something that happened earlier this week, and it'd be good if today was easy. And yeah,
And that's really the magic of it, when one woman's confidence unlocks another.
Yeah.
You've also played a key role in our Writing for Positive Mental Health program. So what's been the difference between those rides for you?
So we would talk. It was really good the way we would link mental health material and the topics that we were looking at about resilience with what happened during the ride. So, for instance, we talk about mindfulness, and then on our ride, we just stop somewhere in the mangroves along the river and just enjoy the sights and sounds and smells of the mangrove. I know smells,
Yes,
I know,
sometimes it
but
is unpleasant, but it's
but
part of that
it's part of
experience.
that mindfulness practice, and riding can be a really good opportunity to develop confidence. Like with our complete beginners, there's a bridge that we ride over that can be quite steep. So we sort of try and break it to them gently that yes, one day we are actually going to ride over that bridge, but don't worry, we'll do it carefully. And just watching people develop their confidence to try new things, to be resilient about that, and to look out for people around them as well. So not running into the back of the person in front of you, even if they should need to stop halfway up. Yeah.
So it sounds like the riders are getting some practical skills as well as the mental health education importance as well. What have you noticed about the impact of the women's well-being throughout these rides?
Um, well, as you know, sometimes people will turn up and they're having a really good day or a really good week and they're raring to go. And other days, something's happened in their life and they really just can't. And, on those days, you're grateful they've even turned up. And it was really important on those courses to notice that something like that was going on for someone, and just, not to point it out or make them feel embarrassed, but just to ride with them, to find out where they're at, and to, just come alongside that person and really be supportive, and to be positive about the fact that they were here, they were talking to people, they were still having an opportunity to be active and to socially connect.
I love the idea of that checking in if that person's okay. How do you support participants who are new, nervous, or just having that tough day?
It's been amazing to just see how sometimes a simple idea can help someone. Like, I remember one participant, it was really important to just say, okay, stop, because she was not yet a confident rider. She was still, practicing sort of one pedal push and then stop. And she was obviously feeling very wobbly. And to be able to just say, okay, hold on, just stop, take a breath. You can do this. And just simple ideas like that. Or another one I remember you saying a while back, that you're in control of the bike. It won't do something that you don't tell it to do. It can be quite important for people to realise that they're in control and that they can take their time and breathe and set off when they're ready.
So you mentioned someone who was still had the wobbles and doing a bit of a power push ride. So was this a beginner's program, or was this for more confident riders?
I think one of the tricky things about that program was we had the whole range. We had beginners and then we had confident people. And the thing that could be hilarious about the confident riders is that they were very confident going fast. Some of them discovered as the course progressed that they weren't that confident going slow, and they weren't that confident being stuck behind a slow rider, and watching out for each other and having those slow skills, and doing some of those funny activities we came up with that involved tight turns or figure eights or placing a tennis ball on top of a cone as you ride past one-handed. Little fiddly things like that could be harder than just plain flying along down a steep hill. So we had riders who were confident doing long distances and high speeds, but asked them to put a tennis ball on a cone, and you could see that there was a new learning experience still available.
It all sounds quite challenging. So, how do you encourage that thinking around positive um, self talk?
I think just by encouraging everyone to take it at their own pace. Like, okay, that's difficult. That's all right. You can work on this. You can do it. Um, and it's like what they tell the kids in school, you don't say, I can't do it. You say, I can't do it yet.
How
So,
true is that? I love that. I love being able to put that phrase of yet on the end of a sentence for people. So, what keeps you coming back week after week?
um, part of it is that I just recognize the benefits for myself, that I feel healthier physically and mentally when I, follow a regular routine and when I show up and when I get some exercise. And it's a social connection as well, and just the support of knowing that people are going to be there to talk to and to ride with.
It's so clear that your leadership is about more than the logistics. It's about presence, empathy, and creating safety for others to show up as they are. Let's talk about the big events. You've taken on rides like Spring Cycle, Bobo, and the MS Gong Ride. What was the first charity ride like?
Well, interestingly enough, if we go way back, I remember I did the Spring Cycle when I was very new to a geared bike. I'd only recently transitioned. I transitioned incredibly late from a children's bike that was a single speed back pedal brake bike that was so old that the brakes weren't great, to a bike that had gears. And I distinctly remember, I think it was around Darling Harbour or something. This is back when Spring Cycle went all the way to Parramatta. And I still did not know how to use gears. And all of a sudden I noticed that as we turned a corner and headed towards a steep hill, there was this tidal wave of gear clicks sweeping towards me through the group. And I was like, oh, so that's when you change gears. So picking up little things like that and just changing gears in time with the wave was a good way to learn.
So, how long was that? What was the distance of the ride?
This is back before I measured distances, but I think it was a ride that went from crossing the Harbour Bridge out to Parramatta. So I think it was 50 k's.
Wow. That is a distance. I do remember my first Gear Up Girl ride, and I'm pretty sure it was only 10 k's my first ride. So I'm just in awe of your persistence and courage in giving these rides a go. How did it feel to cross the finish line?
It's a great feeling, and just to finally get to the finish line, or even on the recent MS Gong Ride that I did, even reaching a milestone in the middle of the event, like the difficult climb in the middle is the climb up to the Otford Lookout, and to finally see blue sky at the top of that lookout and know that most of your climbing is done at that point is amazing. And then there's some fantastic views along the rest of the ride, and then you get into near Wollongong, at the park near Wollongong, and yeah, that finish line is very encouraging, and just it's a great sense of achievement.
And I know it's not just one ride. I know that you've done many in each of these different rides that we've mentioned. Uh, what would be the toughest part about the the Gong Ride?
Well, it's quite funny because you look at the elevation chart of that ride, and there's two really big steep hills. There's the climb up to Waterfall, to where you went to the Royal National Park, and then the one up to Otford that I mentioned earlier. But it's amazing how often people do those climbs, and you tend to settle into riding with a particular group. And so then you go down across the Seacliff Bridge, and then you get to this tiny little hill, Scarborough, which is just that little bit too small to actually appear on the elevation profile. And it's amazing how many people are surprised by it and end up walking up that hill, even though they did not walk up Otford. So I guess it's things like that that taught me how much this can be a bit of a mental game. Like things are a lot easier if you're familiar with it or prepared for it. So I remember encouraging quite a few people, whenever I hear anyone at Otford say, right, I'm done with my climbing, I say to them, you're not. There's a little bit left and you can do it, but don't tell yourself there's nothing left.
So what kind of support did you get from your ride buddies or community for these types of rides?
It's wonderful to have that regularity of uh, having a group to ride with in the lead up to these things, because I find the best way to prepare for a ride like that is to have just been regularly riding in the month or two leading up to it. And so just having a group to turn up with, and especially like with the MS Gong, that means riding through September and October, when if you're by yourself, you will probably get hit by a magpie. So it's just wonderful to have groups to ride with and to have that safety in numbers, if you like.
And what advice would you give someone who's thinking about doing their very first event ride?
You can do it, even if you've never ridden that distance before. Like I would say, for instance, if you're looking at riding the 80-kilometre Gong Ride, as long as you can ride more than 50 or 60 kilometres, you can do it. If you want to ride the 50-odd kilometre one, as long as you can manage 30 or 40, you'll do it, because you get that encouragement from the support of the volunteers that are at every station, at every stop. What do they call it? Every milestone as you go along, where you get given drinks and food, and there's an opportunity to stop, stretch your legs. So you can do it. It'll be a wonderful day. Enjoy the scenery. Take your time. It's okay to not be one of those who's flying down to Wollongong by lunchtime. It's perfectly fine to ride in with the sweep bus or even behind the sweep bus, as I did this year.
That's encouraging to know that it's not competitive, that
Not at
you've
all.
got the support
Some
there.
people make it competitive, but it doesn't have to be. And you really can just find your bunch, just settle into a speed that's comfortable to you, and you'll find that you're riding with people who are doing the same thing.
Now, I know that you did Spring Cycle this year. Tell me
Yes.
about Spring Cycle this year. What was different?
Yes, it was different because I did it with my son, who was doing his first organised event ride. And it was hilarious to watch his reactions, because he'd never done an event ride before. So things like him, a few times he asked where the finish line was. He also enjoyed the views. He also enjoyed absurd things like it's not that common for a 13-year-old to have the opportunity to ride on the road across the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And that's before we get to things like we got to a traffic light and the traffic light was red and there was a police officer there saying, no, keep on going. It's an event. Keep going. So he had great fun telling everyone the story that he went through a red light with a police officer standing right there, but it's okay. It was legal. And then, riding through Darling Harbour, and because of how they plan the event, they close the roads and you end up that you're entering onto an express road via the exit ramp. So all these signs saying wrong way, go back, and just the absurdity of things like that you're right. Yeah.
So how did you mentally prepare your son for this ride?
Well, first of all, there was getting up at 5 a.m.
I was waiting for you to say that. These event rides are not late starts, are they?
No, they're early, and also, we're at the Harbour Bridge and we do not live close to the Harbour Bridge. And of course, there was track work that day. So I was prepared for the possibility that I would have to get my son to ride about 8 Ks before we could even get on a train to go to the event in the dark with lights. And thankfully, I was able to give the track work bus driver a pleading look, cast my eyes over at my son and say, can we get on the bus with a bike, which is normally a no-no. And I wouldn't have even tried if it was just me, but with my son, it was yes, okay, on you get. And that in itself is an experience, keeping your bike steady as a bus goes round corners and so on.
So I'm linking in how you've worked with your son on his first event ride, because I did ask the question about what advice you would give someone who's thinking about doing their first ride. So it's really no different to the advice that you've given and support you've given your son to what someone for the first time. And I guess my comment there is start with a small ride like Spring Cycle 10K.
Yes, 10K, which was, when because I said to him it's 10Ks, how are you feeling about 10 kilometres? And he had no idea what 10 kilometres was.
Yeah.
And he said, how far, when we go get milkshakes, how far is that? And I said, well, that's about 2K. And he said, yeah, I think 10K will be enough for me. So I have joked with him just to test the waters about riding further in future years, but I think that's a way off yet.
I think it's amazing that he's done his first one, because it wasn't that long ago that he was learning to ride either. So well done.
And different people have different approaches. Like my daughter was perfectly happy to, quite a few years ago now, she did the Gear Up Girl ride and she did the 20K option. But again, there was track work that weekend, and the track work option was to put bikes on buses sort of separated by bubble wrap, and we didn't want to do that. So we turned around and rode back to the start again. So that was a 40K day. And by the time we'd finished that, we bought up a lot of lollies at the vending machine at the train station before our trip home. And it did involve stopping at the beach at Cronulla as well.
These rides aren't just about distance, they're about purpose, about proving to yourself that you can do hard things and doing it alongside others. So Amy, my last question is why you would recommend Her Cycling Connections rides or any other riding groups out there?
Just that it's good to have that opportunity to meet up with a particular group at a particular time and place, and to have the support of other people who can teach you skills or show you a safe place to ride. And of course, as we said earlier, there's always the coffee.
Thank you, Amy, for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure just reminiscing about those earlier days and also sharing some of the tips for getting more people riding.
You're very welcome. It's been fun.
So if you're thinking about joining a group ride or maybe taking on your first event ride, let this be your sign. You don't have to be the fastest, you just have to start. Subscribe to the podcast, share the episode with someone who's inspired you, and check out Advantageous for inclusive rides, workshops, and support for women just like you. All the links are in the show notes. Until next time, ride your way, ride with purpose, and ride together.